Good morning, children.
Good morning, children. Today, I am Jayashree, Miss. You know her, she's our new biology teacher. So, we both will be discussing the topic agents of pollination.
So, in the previous class, we had studied about different types of pollination. We had studied about autogamy, we had studied about geitonogamy, and also we had concentrated on xenogamy. Autogamy is nothing but self-pollination, and in that we had discussed about chasmogamous flower and cleistogamous flower. So, which do not open at all. There's a cleistogamous flowers which have the anthers and the stigma are not exposed. So, it leads to self-pollination. And in zenotogamy we saw that is there also there is pollination from one flower to the pollen grains of the one flower is deposited onto the pollen and the stigma of the another flower, but in the same plant. But in the case of xenogamy, there is completely transfer of pollen from one plant to another plant. So for carrying out the pollination, which are the agents, let's discuss about that in detail.
So today Jayashree Miss will introduce the topic agents of pollination. So there are mainly two agents of pollination, abiotic and the biotic. So abiotic are the wind and the water, which is wind is called the scientific term is anemophily, water it is called hydrophily.
Now, the biotic factors which leads to the pollination are by the animals, insects, bats, snails and birds and some other mammals like goat, sheep, cow, buffalo, etc. Some mammals or the squirrels. For example, the pollination which is carried about by insects is known as entomophily. Pollination carried about bats, it is known as chiropterophily. It is for your extra information. And snails, pollination by snails when they move on to the flowers, it is known as malacophily. And the pollination by some birds like hummingbird and all which carry out, which come to suck nectar from the flowers, we classify them as ornithophily. So let's discuss in detail about the various abiotic and biotic factors in pollination.
Okay, so today Jayashree Miss will take the topic agents of pollination. So you will get a plenty of examples also from that. One by one we will be familiar with that. Okay, we can continue with this.
Okay. So first let's concentrate on the abiotic factors, that is pollination by wind. Then we will concentrate on what are the characteristic features of the plants which is pollinated by water, that is water pollinated flowers, and then we will be concentrating on the insect pollinated flowers and what are its characteristic features. So children, we have studied about the various abiotic factors and biotic factors which bring about pollination. So now let's concentrate on the first part, that is the adaptation. What are the adaptations of the plants which is by which the pollination takes place by wind. Alright. So in that the first factor is what is the nature of the pollen grains. The pollen grains in wind pollinated flowers are lightweight because they have to be carried by the wind. They are dry, non-sticky, and in some cases they are winged. You must have seen in the case of dandelion. Dandelion, you must have seen small feathery like seed which is carried away by the wind and it floats in the wind. Even in some cotton plants also you can see that it is carried by wind. The pollen grains are carried by wind. And also in the case of this one, case of maize at all you must have seen, that is the pollen grains are very light, weight, dry, non-sticky and winged. Winged in the case of pine trees and all will have very nice winged pollen grains. The second factor is stigma. The stigma of this wind pollinated flowers are large, feathery. Why they are feathery? To trap the pollen grains which float and come in the air. That is second important point. And the ovary in this case, wind pollinated flowers are generally, it produces only one ovule, not many ovules, only one ovule. And generally the flowers which are pollinated by wind, they are very small. So in order to become very conspicuous, to be attracted by to be carried by the wind, what happened? There are large clusters, numerous flowers are grouped together in clusters, and that forms an inflorescence.
Okay, Jayashree Miss, what do you mean by inflorescence?
Inflorescence is nothing but it's a cluster of many small flowers. So So you must have seen many flowers around you, like single flower where petals are there and the stamen with the anther, stigma, style and ovule and all. This is a single flower. It is very attractive to attract the insect. But in the case of some plants, like plants, what happens? The flowers are very small. So it appears in the form of a cluster. So this is an example of inflorescence, where clusters of flowers are there, and you can see the stamens and all are. It is just, look at the nature of the stamens, it just protrudes out of the small flowers. There are many small flowers, clusters of flowers which is present over here. So this is known as inflorescence, and there are different types of inflorescence which are present around us.
Okay, so what is the scientific term for this wind pollination or bee
Wind pollination is known as anemophily.
So, anemophily.
And here the other one is the flowers generally, like rice, wheat and all, they are generally not colorful and they don't produce nectar. Do you know why they don't produce nectar? What is the reason for that? Because they need not be attracted by the insect. So the main pollinators in this is wind.
So, do you have some more examples to explain to our
Yeah.
students about?
Some more examples is this. In the example of corn cob and all, you must have seen sweet corn which you eat it. So in that you can see lot of tassels are there, the stigma. Okay, so many seeds will be there here, which is covered. Okay, and then you must have seen lot of tassels which are coming out of this. So this is nothing but the stigma. So stigma are large and feathery in order to trap large number of pollen grains to be pollinated by wind. That is the main characteristic features of wind pollinated flowers. So pollen grains are lightweight, dry, non-sticky. Stigma is large and feathery. The ovary generally produces only one ovule, and the numerous flowers are grouped in clusters to form inflorescence. And finally, the flower generally they are not colorful and they don't produce nectar. Let's go to the next topic. So next children, we had already studied about the adaptation of flower for the wind pollination. Let's study for the second type of adaptation of flower for water pollination. Adaptation of flowers. So this water pollination is very common in the lower plants like bryophytes, algae, peridophytes and also in some angiosperms. And it is the main feature here is for the transfer of pollen grains, water is needed. Water is very important. So it is only the distribution of these lower plants is also in a very limited place because of the availability of need for water. Because they need mainly for pollination, water is needed in these plants. The second is, that is you can see in certain, that is hydrophytes, submerged hydrophytes like Vallisneria and then Hydrilla. These are the submerged plant, they are completely submerged in the water. So in that case, there are two different plants, there is a pistilate and stamina. Here you can see the flowers are produced on a long stalk. It is present over here, it comes out of the water, and the pollen grains, when it is dispersed, it is carried by the water current and then it comes and it pollinates the flower. So the pollen grains are, it is submerged, it is dispersed on the surface of the water, which is carried by the water current and which moves towards the stigma, and the stigma, that is, it gets pollinated, the style falls onto the style and it gets pollinated. So that is a special feature of two plants, that is Vallisneria and Hydrilla. And once after pollination, this flower, that is a stalk, it just coils up and comes above the water. That is the main feature of Vallisneria and Hydrilla. Let's go to the next point of this, that is.
Okay, Jayashree Miss, now you told that the pollen grains in the case of water pollinated flowers are released in water. How do these pollen grains get protected from damage, or they are not getting, they are prevented from damaging?
Okay.
They are not getting wet.
Okay. Pollen grains, no, the plants which release pollen grains into water, they will not get wetted because of a mucilaginous covering. So because of that, they will not get protected, and then it will be easy for them to pollinate, fall onto it will be carried by water and they go and pollinate the stigma.
Okay, is there any scientific term for this water pollinated?
Yeah.
Water pollination?
Water pollination plant, it's known as hygrophily.
Okay. So now we will study the rest of the features of the water pollinated flowers.
So the remaining features of water pollinated flowers, like in some sea grasses, okay, which are not in the fresh water but in marine condition, like Geostera, flowers are also submerged in water and they receive the pollen grains which are dispersed by the flowers. So in the marine flowers also, the pollination is underwater, it happens underwater. Next, the feature of same like wind pollinated flowers, the flowers which are pollinated by water, they are not colorful and they do not produce nectar to attract insects. Next, we will study about the next kind of pollination, that is the agent which causes pollination, that comes under biotic factor, that is insect pollinated flowers. What are the special features of insect pollinated flowers?
Okay, Jayashree, now next we will start the explanation for insect pollinated flowers. That is one of the, what kind of agent, biotic or abiotic? Biotic agents of pollination. So insect pollinated flowers, insect pollination, there is a scientific term for that is entomophily. Entomophily. And most of the insect pollinated flowers are brightly colored. They are brightly colored. Their flowers, they are large, sticky. So they are large, sticky and brightly colored flowers. You know why they are brightly colored? To attract the insects. Then the flowers, if they are small, they are found in clusters, as we discussed earlier. That is inflorescence. So they are found in clusters. And most of them produce nectars. So these insects usually come to collect the nectar. So they produce nectars, and the pollen grains, if they are, usually they are sticky due to the exine, and also the stigma is sticky due to the mucilaginous secretion on the stigma. So these are the few features of common features of entomophilous flower. Now, Jayashree, what about Amorphophallus and Yucca? They are the few examples. Can you just explain that? Type of pollination.
So Amorphophallus is nothing but it is the tallest flower, and it is found mostly in Indonesia, Sumatra Islands and all. And that flower, it blooms only in 7 to 9 years, and then it only blooms for blooms only for 7 to 9 years, and it just opens up and remains in that state only for 48 hours. So in between that 48 hours, pollination has to happen. So the flowers, they will give the floral rewards to the insects by providing nectars and pollen grain. And also some flowers, they produce false smell to attract the beetle and the bees and all to get pollinated. And Amorphophallus flower, the tallest flower, what happened? The moth which is there, okay, so moth needs one plant to complete its life cycle. So moth comes to day, lays egg in the plant, in the flower, and flower in turn it will be giving a provide the nectar. So even in yucca plant, another one is yucca. In yucca also the same thing happens, that is the moth comes and lays egg inside the flower, and insect will complete its life cycle inside the flower, and the flower will be getting pollinated and the insect will be able to lay egg. And once the flower gets converted to the fruit, that time the moth, that is the worm, comes out of the flower. So that is how the pollination in the insect pollinated flowers, Amorphophallus and yucca, happens. So children, we have learned about the different agents which cause pollination. We have started with the wind pollination, then water pollination in flowers, and the biotic factor, insect pollinated flowers. What are the characteristic features of flowers? These all are very important. It will be asked in the theory for at least a 3 marks question, or sometimes it will be asked for the 5 marks question. Please learn all the examples properly.
And also all this will be practical based questions you will be getting for the practical exam. You will be getting questions from this. You have to write you will be shown the flower. You have to identify which type of pollination that flower is having, and also what are the features of that flower which help it to, that is why it is pollinated in that way. So you have to study these features are there, you have to study at least 5 should be written. But you have to study the whole thing, that is the best thing. Don't take the risk. So at least 5 you have to write for the practical exam in the paper. So study it properly, take it seriously. This chapter is based, that is practical based. Pollen grains already I told you about that. That is also coming. First practical exam. Okay, miss. So we'll start with the next topic, that is outbreeding devices. Okay.
So outbreeding devices are there in certain plants. That is, majority of the flowers around us, around 60% of the flowers around us which you see is hermaphrodite. That means they have both male reproductive part and female reproductive part in the same flower. So that one, it will lead to self-pollination. That means the pollen grain from the anther of the same flower will fall onto the stigma of the same flower. It may lead to autogamy, or it can also lead to the same, that is the pollen grain may also fall onto the flower of this other flower of the same plant. So what happened? It leads to self-pollination.
So what is the need of outbreeding devices to the plant?
Okay. This outbreeding devices is nothing but it is present in some of the plants in order to prevent self-pollination. It helps in cross-pollination. So for having cross-pollination, some plants they have their genetic mechanism is there in their inside only, so that they will not allow the pollen grain to grow in it.
Okay, miss. What are the disadvantages of self-pollination? Can you just explain?
Okay. The main disadvantage of self-pollination is that it will lead to inbreeding depression. Inbreeding depression means if the plants they get self-pollinated, flowers get self-pollinated, so whatever are the bad genes, that is which will lead to disease or it gets infected by the pest very easily, all those bad genes will be passed on to the next offspring. So that is the main inbreeding depression found in the plants. So plants, in order to have that, to prevent self-pollination, it will have some outbreeding devices in it.
Okay, can you explain the outbreeding devices?
Okay. So let's discuss the different outbreeding devices which they carry out. So first one is nothing but unisexuality. Unisexuality is nothing but, that is in certain plants like papaya and all, you can see that most of the flowers are hermaphrodite, as I told you in the beginning, bisexual flowers and all, which will have both the male reproductive part and female reproductive part in the same flower. But in this what happened, in order to prevent the self-pollination, autogamy, what the flowers will do, like the papaya plant. The papaya, for example, it will have two different plants. One plant produces male reproductive part and other plant will produce a female reproductive part. So what happened? It totally prevents the autogamy. So it leads to allogamy. So there won't be zenitogamy as well as autogamy will be prevented by this mechanism. So that is in papaya. So there is and papaya male plant, how you can see the male flowers are produced in a cluster, which will not lead to the production of the fruit. But female flower, it is the only one where the ovary, that is ovary gets developed into the fruit, and inside you can see the seeds, that is the ovule. Next mechanism is nothing but dichogamy. Dichogamy is nothing but, that is where the plants and all, okay, it will mature, that is the female reproductive part and the male reproductive part, it will mature at different times. Sometimes the pollen grains mature faster than the stigma, or stigma will not become receptive, but at other times the stigma gets receptive faster than the pollen grain. So that is it is classified as two, which is known as protandry, where the stamens gets mature faster than the stigma, and thereby it will prevent self-pollination. The same flower will not get pollinated. So the protogamy is the other kind. So in protandry what happened, the stamen gets mature faster than the stigma, that is the female reproductive part, so it will not lead to the self-pollination. In protogamy what happens, the stigma gets mature and it becomes receptive faster than the pollen grain. So this is another outbreeding device which the plant will be having. So the third feature is nothing but it is known as heterostyly. Heterostyly. In heterostyly, what happened? The anther and the stigma, they won't be found at they are found at the different levels. Sometimes the stigma will be at the higher level and the stamen will be below that. So in that situation also, the stamen, that is the pollen grain of the same flower, will not be able to pollinate the stigma. It will not fall onto the stigma of the same flower. So that is known as heterostyly. That means two different heights of the anther and the stigma will be present. So it will not allow self-pollination. The fourth mechanism is nothing but that is self-sterility. Self-sterility or incompatibility. In self-sterility, what happens? That is the pollen, when it falls onto the stigma of the flower, the stigma will produce certain chemicals which will not allow the pollen grain to germinate on it. So it will not produce pollen tube. So that is a genetic factor which is there inside certain plants, which will not allow it will reject the pollen grain. So it will lead to the self-sterility, or it will not. It's also known as self-incompatibility. That is, a pollen grain of the same flower will not be able to pollinate the stigma of the same flower. So that because it is the genetic feature which is present in certain flowers. Next one, as you have already learned, chasmogamous flowers, which will help in cross-pollination. These outbreeding devices are mainly, it is needed for cross-pollination. So in chasmogamous flower, as I already told that, here what happened, the flowers are open. The flowers are open, and then what happened, the anthers and the stigma both are exposed. So it will not lead to the self-pollination, it will lead to the cross-pollination. So these are the different outbreeding devices which we have studied. One is unisexuality, like in the papaya and all, where it will produce the monoecious flowers. But in the case of certain, it will be two different, that is, it is known as bisexual or hermaphrodite or dioecious flower. Okay, and next one, dichogamy. In the dichogamy, when the anther, that is a pollen grains mature faster, it is known as protandry, and when the stigma gets mature faster, or it becomes receptive faster than the stigma, it is known as protogyny. Heterostyly, different levels of stamen and the stigma. Self-sterility, genetic factor, and chasmogamous flower, where the flowers are open, and when the stigma and the stamen, that is both the pollen grain, everything, it is exposed. So these are the outbreeding devices which will help in cross-pollination in order to produce better yield and more nice variety of plants.
Okay students, so till now we learned about different methods of pollination and different agents of pollination. Hope you have understood the topic. Next time when you see a flower, I hope you will be able to identify the type of pollination. So try to collect different types of flowers and try to study about their way of pollination, and you can also even prepare a herbarium out of that by collecting the different types of flowers.
We have studied about the agents of pollination. Agents of pollination can be classified under two groups, abiotic agents and biotic agents. Abiotic agents are wind pollination and water pollination. Wind pollination is known as anemophily. Water pollination is known as hydrophily. Biotic agents, animals, we can classify them as mammals, reptiles, birds, or insects. Mammals, it will be the mammals like cow, goat, buffalo, okay, which grazing animals which lead to the pollination, carrying anther from one plant to and transferring to stigma of the other plant. So they help in that. Reptiles like lizards and all, they come into this group. Hummingbirds, in some of the birds which will lead to the pollination. Insects, butterfly, moth, all that comes under the group of the animals pollinators. Now some scientific names are given to these. So biotic agents, the pollination, if it is caused by insect, it is known as entomophily. By bats, chiropterophily. And if snails carry out the pollination, it is known as malacophily. And by birds, it is known as ornithophily. Abiotic agents like wind, it is anemophily, and by water, it is known as hydrophily. So now let's see what are the characteristic features of the wind pollinated flowers. So here you can see the diagram as such. It is not brightly colored, and then you can see this is the stigma and this is the stamen. This is the female reproductive part, okay, the pistil, and this is the anther and the stamen over here. So here what happened, the pollen grains are very small and light and dry. They, and in order to be carried by the wind, they occur in very large numbers. So anthers are well exposed to the wind so that the pollen can be easily carried away by the wind current, and the stigma are feathery in order to trap or capture large amount of pollen grain. And flower is not brightly colored, so the petals are mainly green in color and very small, and because they don't have there is no need to attract the insects, and they don't produce any nectar. Here you can see it's a maze, and you can see this violet color. These are nothing but the tassels. They are nothing but the feathery tassels and all, in order to trap, that is the stigma, to trap the large number of pollens for pollination and then finally fertilization. And here you can see this is a single flower. Here you can see this is an inflorescence like rice and all. And here, because the grass family, bamboo is the largest grass, okay, so they also will bloom once in many years. So once it is there, the flowers are very small. So the flowers will appear in a cluster of flowers, and we call that as inflorescence. So these are some of the characteristic features of the wind pollinated flowers. And then you can see here there's another example of this one, dandelion. Okay, here both the pollination and dispersal of the seed is happening by the wind. So the wind carries the pollen grains are very light and winged also, and dry, non-sticky. So it is carried by the wind to the very different place, far off places, and even the seeds also get dispersed in the same way. Now these are the some pictures of the water pollinated flowers. Here's the water lily, but here you can see this one. There is also insect pollination also can happen, because the flower is well exposed outside. So when the insect, when the butterfly or the wasp and all that comes under that, even here the pollination is also carried out by the insect. This is an example of the water hydrophytes, submerged hydrophytes, Vallisneria. The leaves are ribbon-like, and then there are two branches. One branch, it produces a male flower, and other produces a female flower. This is the male, that is staminate flower, and this is the female flower, this is the pistillate flower. So what happened, the male flowers, you can see in this picture, it is very small, okay, and it's little bit winged and all, and then it is the male branch of the plant, it will release the pollen grain to the up to the surface of the water, and which is carried by the water current to the female flower. And female flower, unlike the male flower, is produced on a long stalk, okay, and then when the pollen grain falls onto the stigma, it gets pollinated, and after pollination the male flower stalk, it just coils up, and it is found, it just reaches above the surface of the water. So that is a characteristic feature. This is important for 3 marks question. They ask what are the characteristic features of Vallisneria, that is water pollinated flowers. Another feature of water pollinated flowers I told you, that is it is mainly found in some bryophytes, pteridophytes, mosses and all, that is lower level of the in the plant kingdom. So their distribution also are bryophytes and all, it will be mainly in the place where there is water is present, because water is needed for reproduction and water is needed for transport of anther. So here anthers should not be wetted due to the water, so it is covered by a mucilaginous cover. So this is an example of that. There is a slimy cover which will protect the anther and prevent it from wetting. This is an example of, it comes under wind pollinated flowers. This is a pine cone. This open one, bigger one, this is a female cone, and the smaller one which you can see, this is the male cone. So the female cone, during the pollination time, the female cone, it releases the pollen grain, and here you can see the pollen grain is winged. Okay, so that it just rotates and then it falls down during and carried by the wind. And here you can see all the structure of that, the scale like wing and all, in order to carry the microspore, that is the male pollen grains and all. And then here it is how it comes in contact with the ovule of the female. This is a male cone over here, this is a female cone. And here also a special feature of the pine tree is nothing but the female cone is more broad and big. It is found on the upper branches of the tree, whereas the Male cone is little bit narrow, not much broader. It is found on the lower part of the tree. All right. So this you can see in many, when you go to the hilly places like Kodaikanal or Ooty or any places, you can see such trees there. And then you can also collect the flowers there and try to observe it. What kind of seeds are there, whether seed is there inside it. You can see all that and look at the shape of the leaves, needle shaped leaves. Okay. And then this is the next category which is insect pollinated pollination example. Here you can see here this is an inflorescence. This is a common flower which you can see in our state. So here also the flowers are very tiny. So when the flowers are tiny, in order to make it conspicuous, so the insect should see, so they appear in the form of a cluster known as inflorescence. Here the petals are brightly colored to attract the insect, and also it produces nectar and with a sweet smell, so that the insects and the bees and the wasps will be getting attracted by the plant. And here the bees will be pollinating the flowers. When it goes to suck the nectar will get stuck. It is a sticky pollen grains. So the pollen grains will stick onto the wasp body, insect's body, and when it visits another flower, so it will be deposited onto the stigma of the another flower. So here this is a hibiscus, you can see China rose. Here also the butterfly is helping in pollination. Then under the animal pollinated, this is the snail. When the snail moves onto the flower branches and all, you can see how it is helping in pollination. So it is known as malacophily. And this is the bat, when during the night and all, when it goes to suck the nectar that is from this plant or from the jackfruit or mango or the banana and all that. So you can see how it is when it goes to suck the nectar from the flower, it helps in pollination, and this is known as Chiropterophily. Another interesting under the insect pollinated flowers is Amorphophilus and Yucca. Please learn this properly. Here this is an inflorescence, it's not a single flower, and this inflorescence is known as spadix. Here what happened, this flower blooms in about 7 to 9 years only, and the flower remains open only for 48 hours. So within that time, okay, within the 48 hours or 2 days period, the flower has to be pollinated. So here the insects, and it produces some false smell, so that the insects will get a beetle's moth and all will get attracted. And what they do when they come, mainly they come over here, they get attracted by the false smell, and they mainly lay egg over here. And in turn what happened, the flower will get pollinated by the moth when it visits another flower. So it lays, so there are two-way help for the moth as well as for the flower. This is another flower, Yucca. Here also the mainly moth and all, it will come to suck the nectars, and also it produces the false smell. And here also the moth will lay egg in the flower, and as the seed starts developing, the moth's caterpillar and all, it wriggles out. Next, we have studied about outbreeding devices. Now outbreeding devices are nothing but, you know that most of the flowers around us are bisexual or hermaphrodite. Both male and female reproductive parts are there in the same flower. But what happened, I told you, it leads to self-pollination. And self-pollination, what is our main disadvantage? It leads to the inbreeding depression. That is, the bad genes will be passed on from generation to generation. So the plants will not be able to develop resistance, had we studied in the plant breeding chapter. So here there are some inbuilt mechanism in certain plants to prevent self-pollination and to help cross-pollination. So the first one we are going to consider is dichogamy. Dichogamy is nothing, dicho means two and gamy is fertilization. Okay, here what happened, the female reproductive part and the male reproductive part, they both mature at different times. So to prevent self-pollination. So it is a maturation of the sex organs at different time period. So here also we can tell about two types, protandrous and protogynous. Protandrous is a condition where the stamen, okay, it matures faster than the stigma, and it will release the pollen grains faster than that. The stigma will not be receptive to receive the pollen. Okay, that is a protandrous stage. And what is a protogynous condition? In protogynous condition, what happened? Here you can see the stigma has not matured to release the pollen grain. The stamen has not matured to release the pollen grain, but the stigma it's already matured, it has become receptive. So this is known as dichogamy. the maturation of the sex organs at the different time period. So protandrous, here anthers mature before stigma, and protogynous, here the stigma matures before the anther. So it prevents self-pollination and helps in cross-pollination. Hercogamy. Herco means there's another outbreeding device. Herco means barrier or fence. Gamy means fertilization. So it is a barrier to self-fertilization. It is a structural, physiological and genetic nature in certain flowers to prevent self-pollination. Mainly the flowers will be primrose, jasmine, Lythycerus and oxalis. These are the main plants which will exhibit hercogamy. Here what is the main thing? It's very interesting factor. That is the position of the male reproductive part and the female reproductive part are not at the same level. Here in the first diagram you can see the anther, that is a filament and the anther, they are placed lower than the stigma, style and the ovule. Stigma is above the anther. Okay, and here what happened? Here in this type of condition, the stigma is placed lower than the anther with the pollen grain. So this also it forms a barrier in the floral arrangement of the different male and female reproductive part of the plant flower. And here you can see this one is known as approach hercogamy, where the stigma is placed above, and this is reverse hercogamy where the anther is placed above, and here the hercogamy is not present, so it is absent, where the stigma and the stamens containing the anther containing the pollen grain are at the same level. Okay, so this is the hercogamy. The next one which we had studied was unisexuality. Unisexuality means there is a monoecious flowers and dioecious flower. In monoecious flowers, what happened in maize and all, you can see both the male and female flowers are present on the same plant. But in the case of dioecious, there is one plant which will have the male flower and another plant will have the female flower. So the male and female plants are totally different, not on the same plant. So that is dioecious condition. The first one where both are there, it is monoecious, this is dioecious. Now here what happened? Or dicliny, it is known as dicliny, and more important example is papaya. So this is the first one is nothing but the male flower where the cluster of flower happens, and this will not grow into fruits. The fruit will be developing, the papaya fruit develops only in the female plant. So this will not lead to the production of the papaya fruit. So this is the male flower, this is a cluster. So as it is seen, it will not help in fruit production, but this is the female flower. And here what happened? So totally it will not lead to autogamy or genitogamy. It is xenogamy or cross-pollination. So for the pollen grain from another papaya tree, that is a pollen, it will be transferred onto the another plant, that is xenogamy. So these are the ones which you had studied. Hope you have understood this well. Please learn all the examples properly. Thank you.